What's up, guys? M. Jones back in the house again for another Blu-ray update. And today I have a special guest with me. My man hasn't been here for a while, but he's back. My man, Jim Bob.
M. Jones.
Anyway.
Not Jim Bob Duggar, by the way.
Yeah, for many reasons.
Yes.
The one you're thinking of right now. Okay, we got some Blu-rays we're going to talk about today. Have a couple steelbooks I want to talk about today, too. That my buddy Steggs Jr. was giving me some pointers about. You should probably get them and probably sell them again someday when you get older if they earn a lot of money, which they could. So I have them. I'm going to go over today too. And I have one DVD situation going on here. It's not just a DVD movie. It's a DVD collection series. So we're going to talk about that at the end. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover the Blu-rays. And we're going to go over in alphabetical order as always our very first movie. First one, American Sniper. Just picked this up 2 Tuesdays ago. Just an absolutely extraordinary film. I loved everything about it. You know, I remember I read the book, and it took everything for Chris Kyle to get to write the book because people kept pushing and pushing and pushing for him to write it and tell his story. And I'm really glad he did, so everyone can know just what kind of guy he was. Jim Bob, did you like the movie?
I loved it. I remember we saw it together.
Yeah, we did see it.
And we didn't really talk much during it.
No, we couldn't.
And it was, afterwards, we were just like, wow.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It was very moving, especially at the end after, it's no surprise. Everyone knows Chris Kyle passed away, unfortunately.
sadly.
But just the ending of it, just getting to see the real footage of
the
line of the funeral.
Right.
And then, of course, seeing the story of his life that he went through was pretty amazing.
Yeah, what I loved about the very end was I loved the music that was played. The guy who wrote the song and performed the song at the end of this movie did a lot of the Good and Bad, the Ugly theme with Clint Eastwood, so it's the same composer. So I really thought that kind of tied in really well, and I figured why, because Clint Eastwood directed this movie and was in the Good and Bad, the Ugly, so he used the same singer. So that was kind of interesting. So you can consider that continuity in for trivia for movies. So I kind of like that. But I love this movie. I honestly, I give grades now by the letter system. I give this an A+. I thought it got absolutely robbed a lot in the Oscars.
It was a tough field.
It was a tough field this year, and I totally see why Eddie Redmayne won for Theory of Everything, but I was secretly, I picked Eddie Redmayne for Best Actor, but I secretly wanted him to win too, if there could be a second place trophy, or at least or maybe first place. But I love Bradley Cooper. What do you think of his performance?
It was pretty amazing just to see his body transformation, how bulked up he got.
He was huge.
And, I mean, when you forget that it's the actor and you're like, oh, that's Chris Kyle right now, that shows me how good of a... I mean, that's why Eddie Redmayne definitely won, because I was like, oh, that's Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking right there.
So, I mean, but he did a great job, and of course, like you said, Eddie Redmayne, I think, was well-deserved of it because of all the research he did and how he changed throughout the movie. But, I mean, he would probably be my second choice behind Redmayne.
Yeah, I mean, the next movie we're going to go over kind of talks about what I'm going to say now is I got lost in his character because I thought Chris Kyle was playing Chris Kyle. I didn't think Bradley Cooper was playing Chris Kyle. I know I'm not a moron, but I did know Bradley Cooper was playing Chris Kyle, but I really believed it was Chris Kyle. I believed that Eddie Redmayne was playing, Stephen Hawking. I believed Steve Carell was playing John DuPont in Foxcatcher. But the next movie we're going to talk about kind of goes away from what our little trend is right now. So I thought this movie was great. Next one I want to talk about it was nominated for 7 Golden Globes and Best Picture, and it won Best Picture, and it won Best Director. It was Birdman. I watched it solely because I had to. It was one of those movies, it wasn't on my checklist at all for movies that I personally wanted to see, opposed to the movies I wanted to see just for Oscar's sake, and to try to guess who wins. I thought Michael Keaton's role in this, now he wasn't trying to portray anybody, so that goes against what we're saying about Chris Kyle, John DuPont, and Eddie Redmayne, but I thought Michael Keaton was still playing Michael Keaton again. Like, I didn't really care. It reminded me of every movie he's ever done. He's always kind of quirky, and he talks fast, talks with his hands, and I just wasn't really into this. I'd like Edward Norton in this movie. I thought he did a nice job. And I like Zach Galifianakis playing it really straight. I thought he was good in this movie. I used to really like Emma Stone, but something about her is annoying me lately. the Spider-Man movies, I don't know if that bothered me, but in this movie, she was just annoying. I don't know. I didn't really like her in this movie, even though I like her in real life. She seems cool, but I haven't liked her in movies in the last couple of years. And this movie just it did nothing for me to like her. But it was a good movie. It was a good movie. A little too artsy fartsy for me. Not my kind of movie that I would want to go see under my own volition. But
how'd you feel about the camera angles in this? I mean,
see, that was different.
Just one continuous
camera. Right, that was different. And Jim Bob brings up a good point. And there was a scene that I think went on for 12 straight minutes. Didn't even cut. Like that. That's pretty impressive. I give it that. Like the cinematography and the editing was outstanding. It just really wasn't my kind of movie. Like a lot of people, like just reading the back of this says hilarious. I didn't really find it funny. I found it interesting, but I didn't find it funny. But yeah, I just, I guess it was because it's kind of a novel approach to cinema, and that's what gets all the critics going crazy, especially in Oscars and stuff like that. So that's probably my guess why it won, but I would have picked it. I would not have picked it. I would have probably picked like Imitation Game or something. I thought that was incredible.
I liked Imitation Game. I liked Foxcatcher. Yeah. I liked American Sniper. Yeah. But I mean, this was just kind of like the fresh pick with the director.
Fresh pick, you're right. The guy was, I think, either from Spain or from Mexico, I forget. But, he won Best Director, and it's great. I mean, I'm sure it couldn't have been easy to edit all this and direct it and stuff like that. But not a movie that I really cared about. I give it, just for its novel approach, I give it in the A factor, but I give it an A- because I didn't care. It wasn't a movie I really cared for. What do you think?
I mean, it was all right. I mean, it wasn't my favorite out of all the ones nominated, that's for sure. And I've seen pretty much all of them, and it wasn't in my top 3, honestly. But I mean, it's going to be one of those movies that's going to be talked about forever because it won.
Right. So. Exactly. It has that major prestige. All right, let's move on. Next one I want to talk about is the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. This was Heath Ledger's actual last movie. Now, the Joker. He was in The Dark Knight as the Joker. That was his actual second to last movie. The movie he did before the Joker in Dark Knight was a Bob Dylan movie. And he played like a Bob Dylan character. But this was actually his last movie. And he died about halfway through this movie. And if you're looking at all these guys over here, these are well-known guys. Johnny Depp and Colin Farrell and Jude Law. They took over his role and had to rewrite the script because of his death. That happened in January of 2008. So these guys here, the 3 huge A-list actors, they took all the money they made and gave to Heath Ledger's daughter, Matilda. Like, I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Such a great thing they did. Very selfless, very kind. So I had to get this just because I'm a massive Heath Ledger fan. I own, I would say, at least 80% of his library. I think he's a wonderful actor that unfortunately passed away. You could even say, I'm sure Jim Bob's going to comment that, I mean, some people have said, not to be like a child, but like the Joker role killed him. Because he spent hours and hours of research, and he took so many interviews from the artist Tom Waits, who's he is a musician, and he's kind of quirky and kind of strange in his interviews, and a lot of his twitches in Dark Knight he took from Tom Waits in his interviews, and he took Malcolm McDowell's acting from Clockwork Orange, and then he took all the Jokers in the past, kind of mixed all of them up, and that's how he became the Joker. So it's all of those 2 guys and then the Jokers, and that's how he made his role. I mean, he was amazing. He locked himself in a motel for like 30 days with no light and would just watch Joker and watch Clockwork Orange and watch Tom Waits interviews. That's how he did it. That's where he got his whole thing from. Thought that was amazing.
It's sad to think of all the movies
and
roles that were taken from the viewers.
Yep.
I mean, because
I think that way for John Candy and Chris Farley, just because.
I mean, some people say he only won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor because he died, but I mean, it's possible, but I think he definitely earned it. I mean, anyone who saw Dark Knight was there to see him.
Yeah,
they weren't there. They weren't there to see Christian Bale play Batman.
I didn't give a shit about Christian Bale.
They were there to see the Joker.
Yeah,
and same reason for Dark Knight Rises. Everyone was there to see Bane and Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy was fantastic in that movie. Yeah, but this movie's different. It's kind of like a traveling carnival kind of a thing, and Christopher Plummer plays Dr. Parnassus, and he has like these visions and stuff, and if you go up on stage to their little travel thing, the little traveling stage, you can actually get lost in it, and it goes into this other world if you go too far into their stage. It's kind of it's exactly Imaginarium. It's very cool, and some of it's dangerous, some of it's crazy, some of it's really beautiful, and it was actually a pretty fun movie. Not a movie I'd probably want to watch over and over, but seeing Heath like right after his role as Joker was pretty cool because his acting, he was very, in my opinion, in this movie reserved. Probably because he was so exhausted from playing the Joker for how long he ever, portrayed the role. Mm-hmm. So you got to see this movie, and there he is up close. You got to see this movie just because it's just Heath right before he died. It's kind of grim and it's kind of morbid, but it was a great movie I thought to watch, to kind of honor him. I give this movie a solid B. Nothing that I cared about, but just seeing Heath was the best part.
And that's the main reason people wanted to see this.
And this movie probably made a killing because of that. Sadly. The next one I want to talk about is a recent movie that's come out. You get it at Best Buy pretty cheap. It's probably on more of the side shelves where you can't always see the premiere ones. But I really like this movie. It's called Just Before I Go.
You've told me a lot about this. Yeah. I have not seen this yet myself.
It's a different movie. It's funny, but it's also very, very dramatic, and it touches upon a major topic that is always of question, which is suicide. And this is a Courtney Cox film. She's Monica in Friends. And she's in Cougar Town. You know who she is. But she directed this. I don't know if she wrote... No, she didn't write this movie, but she did direct it. And it's basically about a guy... Sean William Scott played Stifler in American Pie. He basically summed it up in the very beginning of the movie. He wants to kill himself. And he just seems like he's had a bad go at things. The girl that played in The Girl Next Door... And I always forget her name. She was in
Alicia Cuthbert.
Thank you, Alicia Cuthbert. She marries him and she's cheating on him with her music instructor. He goes nuts about it. It just makes him sick. And he doesn't have a great family life and things are all over the place. So he decides he wants to kill himself. But then he starts to realize that he can't kill himself because his whole family's going through a bunch of shit individually. And he's like, well, I need to be there for them. And it kind of makes... You see someone who's struggling with suicide and mental depression kind of work out their own problems from other people's problems. I really liked it. I really thought it was a good movie. In the grand scheme of being like an amazing movie like Oscar talk, no. But for what it was, being low budget, I really thought it was a good movie. I give it a B+. Again, it's nothing spectacular, but it was a good movie. And I'm a big fan of Rob Riggle. If you don't know who Rob Riggle is, he's right here where my finger's pointing. He was in... I believe he was in Hangover. He played the cop that tased Zach Galifianakis. He's actually very fun.
He was in 21 Jump Street, Let's Be Cops.
Right, he was in Dumb and Dumber 2, the second one with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. But just a good movie. I think this movie is probably something people are going to forget, and one day it'll be on TV and be like, oh yeah, that movie. It's one of those kind of movies. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Nothing crazy though. The next one, I already own this, but I had to get it as a collector item, and I'm not going to open it, and I'm going to see how long I can try to hold off on selling it, see if I can maybe sell it someday, is I got the Steelbook from Best Buy of The Karate Kid. Now, this is my all-time favorite movie, for many reasons, because it was like the first movie I remember watching as a kid, and I watched it over and over and over and over, and I thought karate was awesome, and I always liked the bad guys. And the reason I bought this, not just for the collector's sake, but the fact that Billy Zabka, was because of all Cobra Kai. Like, they're all on the cover. And there's no Miyagi, and there's no Daniel. Like, it's like, yeah, like, I like the bad guys in this movie.
A lot of people do like the bad guys in this movie.
Right, like, the bad guys were awesome. I thought, if I remember right, there was Johnny... I think there was Bobby. I think that was Bobby right there. And that was, I think, Dutch and Tommy. I think that was Tommy. That was Dutch. And, of course, Johnny Lawrence, the man. And Bobby. So, and I just loved this movie. I thought it was amazing. But I thought these guys made the movie. I thought, Ralph Macchio's character was a little bitch, which it called for in the script. I wasn't into him at all. But I loved the bad guys in this movie. And that's why I bought the Steelbook. Because I love those guys. And I love the fact that I, have Karate Kid to own, because I already have it on Blu-ray, but now I have it where I'm not going to open it and maybe sell it back someday. I've never sold a movie before, but I might do it with this, but we'll see. But just a class, A++.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next movie, I just recently saw this. It's a 2001 feature. I've never seen it, but
I'm sure you've seen one scene from it.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a second. But I never saw this movie, and reason I bought it again was to add to my library of Heath Ledger movies. And
I always forget he's in this.
Yeah,
movie.
he plays Billy Bob Thornton's son. It was Monsters Ball, 2001. Major drama. It's really sad. I mean, the whole movie's depressing, but it's a good movie to watch for actors, prowess. Like for example, Halle Berry won best actress for this role in 2001, and I thought she did a pretty good job. I don't know about winning an Oscar for it, but I definitely think she did a good job. And this is mainly about she has a child, very overweight child, and her husband / his father is on death row, and Billy Bob Thornton and Heath Ledger both are police or prison guards, and they walk all the bad guys to death row. So these two guys took, unbeknownst to all parties, her husband to death row, and basically electrocuted him. So, but the movie starts basically after some severe depression with Heath Ledger. And what ensues there, I don't want to ruin it for you, and Billy Bob Thornton, meets her at a diner, and they just kind of strike up chemistry. And it was like one of those things where they didn't expect it to happen, and he's a major racist. And his father, the late Peter Boyle from Everybody Loves Raymond, was a horrible racist. And he kind of just learned to be good to, people of different colors because of finding love through her. So, like, it's a really good movie, but it's very depressing. It's very depressing. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, the whole Halle Berry Best Actress was kind of odd to me as well. Yeah. But, I mean...
She did good, but I wouldn't have picked her.
I was, like, in middle school when this came out, so it was years later till I saw it, from start to finish. But, I mean, it was a different movie, but it has a lot of big names in it, and... I always forget that Heath Ledger's in it until I saw the cover of this when you showed me.
Yeah. He's in it for about a quarter to a third of the movie.
Yeah.
Not to ruin anything, but that's how long he was in it. And, a great movie. I give this movie a solid A. It was really good. Well done. The acting is outstanding. Next one. I hate that they're doing a remake of it because I don't think it's going to be at all good. But prove me wrong. Please, Hollywood, prove me wrong. But I got Point Break. And I had to get this movie. I thought I owned it. That's why I never bought it when I saw it before. But I went through did a little inventory and saw that I didn't have it. So I was like, okay, you're coming home. So I love this movie. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you have to see this movie. Johnny Utah is Keanu Reeves, former college quarterback. He gets into the FBI and stuff. He's like a rookie agent in the FBI, and he teams up with Gary Busey, which he's a nut job. But that was before he went nuts. Yeah. But they teamed up to try to find who's been robbing banks around the area in California. And they dress up as ex-presidents. And that was awesome. And so, they lead you to believe that maybe this guy, Patrick Swayze, and his name is Bodie in the movie, happened to be the culprits. So, don't want to ruin it for you, but this is just an awesome movie. I love this movie. It's not a great movie again it's not going to win Oscars or anything like that. But for me, this is an A. I love this movie. I watched it so many times, and this movie, I swear, no matter where I went, if I went to Walmart or Kmart or Best Buy, it was always in the cheap bin for DVD. This is always in the cheap bin for DVD. It was always $4 or $5, whether it was VHS or DVD or Blu-ray. It's always been in the cheap bin, and it's a shame because it's a great movie. I hope you don't just think it sucks because it's in the cheap bin. Phenomenal movie. Check this out. Have you ever seen it?
I have never seen this, and I'm kind of ashamed after hearing the review.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome.
I may have to come to the M. Jones rental store and rent this.
Oh, my goodness. It's going to cost you.
Uh-oh. Not
good. Next one, another one Mr. Jim Bob has not seen, I'm so shocked about, is The River Wild. 1994. I remember I saw this movie right before the summer I went to Youghiogheny River outside of Pennsylvania and Ohio to go whitewater rafting. So I saw this movie, I'm like, we're not doing this, are we? I was freaked out because the movie's kind of terrifying because they go through a lot of shit on and it's filmed in Montana. This movie was filmed in Montana, and all of the whitewater rafting and the gauntlet stuff was all filmed in Montana. And it kind of freaked me out because I was going whitewater rafting 2 months after this movie came out. And I absolutely love this movie. Meryl Streep, I'm not a huge fan of her, but she was really cool in this movie. And Kevin Bacon, he always has that creep look to him. He played a pretty nasty bad guy. And David Strayhorn, who I think gets absolutely shit on in Hollywood. He's a great actor. He plays Meryl Streep's kind of estranged husband. And then the little guy here is Joe Mazzella. If you've ever seen Jurassic Park, you know Joe Mazzella was the little boy. Tim. And he was also in the movie The Cure with the late Brad Renfro, who unfortunately committed suicide. Or died of an overdose, I forget. But either way, he's a good young actor. He was in He was in a TV series 2 years ago or 3 years ago on HBO called The Pacific, that kind of talked about what Stephen Ambrose wrote about. So that was a really good series. But anyway, this movie's really good, and it's basically they have to get down. Meryl Streep and her husband and her son, they have to get down to a certain part of the river to see the rest of her family. But then Kevin Bacon and John C. Reilly, who is normally a good guy in every movie and funny, was a bad guy. And that was weird.
John C. Reilly as a bad guy is weird.
It was very weird. It was very weird. And it was hard to believe because he really was a jerk in the movie. And they did something wrong that I don't want to tell you, and they have to get down to a certain part too. So he needs her because she's experienced at this to get them to a certain spot. So great movie, full of action, and it was just a wonderful movie. Check it out. Next one.
Listen to him.
Jim Bob, hold this thing for me, brother. Tell me about Shrek. Let's hear about
Shrek. Well, this is the complete collector's edition.
All four.
All four Blu-rays.
There was one. It was a Best Buy for a very good deal, and Steggs was like, Jones, you cannot pass this up. So sold me.
If you were a '90s kid, this, I guess it was late '90s, early 2000s. This came out. The first one, Shrek, Mike Myers, Ogre, Eddie Murphy, Donkey, love it. Cameron Diaz, Princess Fiona,
love her.
And all three of them were in all four of these movies. I believe I did see the fourth one, actually. I told you before.
Shrek Forever After.
That's the one with the kids, right? He has like his little logo.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that one then. Out of all of them, there isn't a bad one. Because Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy is my favorite character.
He was great. He was the donkey. Eddie Murphy saying he wanted to make waffles in the first one, I'd crack up laughing. I thought that was so funny. He was so positive.
You look at the cover, all these characters. It's mostly really famous people that are voicing all of them.
Right.
I think it was the fourth one. When that fourth one came out, the Forever After one, every big time celebrity at least had a line.
Because it was such a hit.
As a fairy tale
wanted
character.
To be part of it. Get the royalties.
And the funny thing about this is DreamWorks' knock at every Disney movie ever made.
Oh yeah.
They make fun of Cinderella, Snow White, and not just the fable stories, but every Disney story of all the fairy tales and stuff. So
I remember when I saw this, I thought it was hysterical that the donkey was dating the dragon. I was like,
and then they have the donkey dragon babies. How does that work?
Not the most attractive in the world. Yeah, luckily, thank God they didn't explain how that happened either. Yes. But it's just a great series. I'm very biased. I really like the first one. The other ones I thought were great, but just the first one started the whole thing. I'm more of an original guy. I like the original movie. Sequels are always fine, and nothing against them.
Shrek 2 was good.
Shrek 2 was good. Yeah. I think the best sequel of all time was probably Terminator 2.
Yeah, but Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, Godfather Part 2 is very good. But I just prefer the original. So I got this mainly because it's a whole collection, and I saved so much more money. Because if you buy them separately, you could pay $7 to $10 when I bought the whole thing for $18. So it's a no-brainer. But really happy to have this. Next one. One of my favorite movies by my fiance, so I had to get that for her. But I also like this movie a lot. I think it's a great movie. It was Reese Witherspoon in Sweet Home Alabama. It was a really good movie. I remember when it first came out, I'm like, no, I'm not seeing that. I'm thinking, it's probably for chicks only. But I completely bit my tongue, because when I saw this, I really liked it.
It's one of those chick flicks that guys like, too. The Other Woman with Cameron Diaz last year. That's hilarious. I love that movie.
It's not a bad movie at all.
I love that movie.
But the funny thing about this movie, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in college, I played football. And my roommate Eddie, who you've met,
yes.
He was super he was very manly guy. I always thought he was just the man at everything. And I remember I was going through his DVD collection, was all the typical movies you'd think a dude would own. And I came across this, and I was like, Ed, is this yours? He goes, yeah, Jones, it's awesome. I'm like, you serious? He's like, yeah, it's awesome. I was like, Okay. So I didn't want to be closed-minded, so I watched it with him and I fell in love with it. I thought it was hysterical. And there's nothing more manly than walking by a dorm with two big dudes that play football watching Sweet Home Alabama. It's humbling for me and funny for everyone else. But I really love this movie. And it's a young Patrick Dempsey and a younger Josh Lucas. Josh Lucas I loved in Coach Carter. And, and
he's great in Glory Road.
Yeah, Glory Road. Not Coach Carter. Glory Road, I'm sorry. And I really like Patrick Dempsey. He's always been good in everything. A really good Patrick Dempsey movie is called Can't Buy Me Love. It's from the 80s. Really good movie. Check that out. And he's also been, heartthrob in Grey's Anatomy for how many years. And he's recently been killed off, if you haven't known that.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. But I really like this movie, and it's just, she goes back to her roots, and she has a big job, I think, like New York, and and Patrick Dempsey's her love interest, but she's not divorced yet from Josh Lucas's character. So
she goes home to Alabama, and she has to make the divorce final so she can marry Patrick Dempsey. It's on TV all the time. I don't want to ruin it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but old love interest.
Sparks.
Yeah, it's what you think it is. It's what you think it is. She goes back home, old love interest.
Yeah, she do.
And what is it?
Sparks are flying. But it's a good movie. I'm not ashamed to say it.
It's on TV all the time.
I really liked it. That was great. I was really hesitant to see this. You didn't see it?
I still have not seen this yet.
Okay.
I was always a fan of the cartoons and everything of it growing up. Maybe not the older movies.
Yeah. I was really questionable about this coming out because we're both born 80s, grew up 90s guys. And I love 90s movies. Like, I grew up I watched them all the time. I went to the movie theater all the time as a kid. I'd want to do double features every time I went to the movies because I just wanted to make my time useful. But I got this movie mainly because it was a steelbook. I really do like the steelbooks. I don't collect as many as Steggs does, but I probably will just because I do like the fact that they're so, kind of just temporary. So that means dollar signs later in the down the road. But yeah, I thought it's a really nice Steel book. I'll kind of show you how nice it is. It's really strong and very durable and I really like the cover for it. But I got this wicked cheap. I got this at Best Buy for $17.99, and the regular Blu-ray of this movie was $26.99. I'm like, that's kind of idiotic. Why would I buy?
Might as well get were any of the Ninja Turtles famous actors that people would know?
Honestly, I gotta think about that. It's a good question. I'm going to say no one that you would really know, but I will say that the voices you would know. Leonardo's voice was Johnny Knoxville from Jackass.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
You could tell it's him. And if you know about Leonardo, he's the leader. He's the leader of the group, and Raphael's the rebel, and Donatello's the brain, and Michelangelo's the funny one. He's the comic relief. But yeah, the voice of Leonardo was Johnny Knoxville. But another actor played his, motions and detections and all that stuff. But I really like this movie. I was really surprised I did, but I have to say I thought it was a wonderful movie. I hate saying that. Last Blu-ray we're going to talk about, and then we're going to go over a DVD collector item, is I never knew I didn't have this. I was, again, like I said, going through some inventory, and I noticed I didn't have the second of the installments of Toy Story, which, shame on me. I found it really cheap online on, I think, Amazon I got this off of. And I had to get it because I have Toy Story, I have Toy Story 3, and I have the Night of Terror one, or whatever it's called, that one that came out 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the second one. And I had to get this one. And this movie reminds me, when did it come out? 2000?
It was 2004
or 2000?
No, it was before that. It was I believe it was 2000, 2001.
Wow. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember when it came out.
Fun fact, which I don't know if you knew about Toy Story 2, it was technically supposed to be a straight to tape, DVD.
Really? Shame on them.
They were not going to release it, and then they tested it with groups, and everyone loved it. Right. I mean, everyone loved the first one, so they're like, okay, well, we're going to make a lot of money putting this in theaters, and they were smart to, because then Toy Story 3 made a ton of money, and Toy Story 4 in a couple of years is going to make a lot of money as well.
Right. I mean, if I go back to the 90s, and the first movie came out in 1995, and I was about 9 years old, and I just remember thinking Toy Story was the most fun movie of my childhood. Now, my favorite movie of my childhood was Karate Kid, but the most fun movie that had adventure and had everything, great actor voices, everything, was Toy Story 1. I love that movie.
And the fact that those guys, Tim Allen and
they still do
Tom
voices.
Hanks, I mean, they're still doing them, even for like those TV specials. They just had a Christmas one.
Continuity.
And they love doing it. I mean,
I'm
sure they
nice
love the paycheck too, yeah.
Yeah, I would like millions of dollars too, Jim Bob. So I really do like... I really just love the whole series. I'm glad I got this one. I will say this is probably my least favorite out of all of them.
I have to agree with you on that one. The first one's the best. Toy Story 3...
Great message at the end.
You thought that's where they were going to end it. It would have been a good ending spot, but I mean, people want more. So I mean,
I keep hearing Toy Story 4.
It's in the works.
Right is it really?
They're making it right now.
Wow.
Finding Dory for a sequel.
Cannot wait for that for Finding Nemo. But yeah, this is not my favorite one. But I definitely thought it was. I thought it was still good. You know, I like to see it again because I've only seen it like twice. But this movie's a solid B. B+. It's a good movie. It's great. All right, so that's it for the Blu-ray. I do want to go over this. I got a 3-disc season 1 of In Living Color. Now this was early '90s. You know, this was like early Wayans Brothers. You know, the host and the writer of the show was Keenan Ivory Wayans, who I think, the oldest of the Wayans brothers.
Yes.
And you have Shawn Wayans and Marlon Wayans, and of course Damon Wayans, who's probably the most famous out of the Wayans brothers, in my opinion, and I think everyone else's.
I mean, the Wayans. They also made all the scary movies.
All the scary movies. And then her sister Kim Wayne, she's in that, and I think that's her up there. But this is season 1 of a really good show. And what I thought was cool about this show was it was mostly African American actors and actresses, but then it had Jim Carrey. Like, talk about a gold mine, and talk about one hell of a signing.
If you haven't seen this at all,
and
you have no idea what In Living Color is, go to YouTube.
Yes,
and look at some of the skits. The one Jim Carrey one where he's the workout person.
Vera DeMilo. And that's him playing Vera DeMilo. He plays like a strung out woman that's on steroids.
I pissed my pants every time I watched that one.
He's like, hi, I'm Vera DeMilo. And it's like, whoa, she's really rough. And then he plays Bob Jackson, the karate instructor that gets his ass kicked by all the girls in his class. It's a great. And then this is real funny, is David Alan Grier and Damon Wayne, they play 2 gay guys, and they're called men on whatever topic they're talking about. So say they're talking about football, it's called Men on Football, and they're very flamboyant in this act. And they talk about, the one guy says to, David Alan Grier says to Damon Wayans, he goes, so, who's your favorite football teams? And Dave Wayans goes, I like the Packers and the Oilers. It's like, oh, God. It's like, ew. It's so funny, though.
No, I mean,
it's genius.
This definitely rivaled SNL.
And
a lot of these skits were amazing.
Yeah, and this was a little bit more racy than SNL.
Yeah, I mean, it was Fox's version.
Besides
Mad TV.
And then Mad TV, yeah. I mean, growing up, born 80s, grew up 90s, like Jim Bob and myself, we both love SNL. We still do. Unfortunately, it's not as good as it used to be. But I think every generation says that about a generation behind.
Yeah.
But I really think it's the truth. I think it's not good anymore as it used to be. But this was so funny, and I'm anxious to get the rest of the seasons just because I know I'll want to watch them again. I've watched about half of this whole thing because there's 3 discs and there's a lot of episodes to watch per disc. And I think it looks pretty good on TVs. It's not like it's real far back where they couldn't kind of remaster how it looks on the screen, but it looks pretty good. But just seeing Jim Carrey, and the funny thing is when they introduce everybody, his name is James Carrey. It's not Jim Carrey yet. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay. But the cool thing about In Living Color was before Jim Carrey's run at Ace Ventura and Stanley Ipkiss and the guy in Liar Liar and all of his characters that he played, you can see all remnants of his characters on this show in his movies. He does a lot of Ace Ventura type characteristics. He has a lot of the Mask. He has a lot of Cable Guy a little bit. And it's just kind of weird to see that because you're seeing the origin of those roles in this show before they did the movie. Mm-hmm. So I love that because he had so much talent. He still does, but he's just a little older now. But just such a great show. Jim Bob?
I think we said all that we can without, you just got to go check it out for yourself. If you don't even feel like buying this, YouTube.
It was like $10 at Best Buy. Like, don't be cheap. Go get it. But anyway, that is our collection update for, I believe, May 28th. Yes. It is also my dog's second birthday, so unfortunately he's partying at my parents' house right now, but it is my dog's birthday, so very excited. He's 2. And we'll probably have another Blu-ray update in probably, I'd say, about a month. There's nothing I really want right now. I will say August 4th is the release on Blu-ray of Free Willy, 1994 classic. Definitely suggest you buy that movie. I already have it on pre-order on Amazon.
Named my first goldfish after him.
I could beat the rhythm. I love it. I love that whole movie. I love the whole Michael Jackson song.
Will you be there?
Will you be there? Love it. It's such a good movie. And that's coming out in August, so I'm looking forward to that. And if there's a few other titles that I just can't remember at this moment, but I will say check back on my page, or my channel, in probably about 2-3 weeks, probably have something else. I hope to have some in-theater reviews coming up too. There's some movies I want to check out. I'm not really sure about San Andreas, but I probably will see it just because I do like The Rock and he's cool.
I will be seeing it, so maybe I'll hijack the show.
That won't happen. Wow. But anyway, thank you, Jim Bob, for coming back. We missed you. Obviously, we missed you. Mainly the women on the channel that's subscribed. Right. They need a piece of Jim Bob.
Make sure you go down below and click subscribe.
Careful what you say
over there.
Yes. So thank you again for watching and subscribing. And take it easy and bye.
Bye.